My phone buzzed with a message I wasn't supposed to see. It was a forwarded group chat screenshot from my cousin Mark. "Funeral's Friday. Keep Alice out of it. She's just going to make things difficult," the message from my mother read. Alice. That's me. I blinked at the screen, thinking there had to be some mistake. Grandpa Thomas had just passed away 2 days ago, and I hadn't even heard from my parents directly. Not a call, not a message, nothing. I hadn't seen them since our argument 2 years ago, when I refused to sign some vague legal documents they claimed were just formalities. Turns out, I was right to say no. Grandpa and I had always been close. Closer than anyone else in the family. I used to spend entire summers at his cottage, learning how to fish, how to balance a checkbook, how to spot liars from a mile away. He trusted me, and before he passed, he gave me something no one else knew about. A sealed manila envelope. He handed it to me with a firm grip and said, "Don't open this unless you have to, and you'll know when that is." At the time, I didn't ask questions. Now I had a feeling I knew exactly what was inside. I dressed in black and showed up to the funeral uninvited. Heads turned. My mother's lips thinned into a line. My father looked like he'd seen a ghost, but no one dared say anything, at least not in front of the priest. The service was short and cold, just like the family. Afterward, everyone gathered in the estate's living room for the will reading. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was, and I was going to stay. They brought out a thick folder with the label "Last Will and Testament, Thomas Everett." My Uncle Jeff, always the loudest in the room, smirked as he sat down with a whiskey in hand. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. "I've been instructed to read the amended will dated 3 months ago," he began. I raised my hand. "Actually, I believe there's been a mistake," I said. Everyone turned to me. My mother's eyes narrowed. My sister looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I pulled the sealed envelope from my purse. "This is the last will," I said. Gasps echoed through the room. My father stood up, face red. "That's nonsense! Thomas updated his will before he died?" I shook my head. "I had this notarized and verified by his lawyer in Vermont. Grandpa asked me to protect it." The room went silent. The lawyer took the envelope and examined the seal. He opened it, read the contents, then looked up with a pale face. "This changes everything." The silence was thick enough to choke on. My mother stood, trembling slightly. "What do you mean it changes everything?" she demanded. The lawyer cleared his throat again, flipping pages slowly, as if weighing every word. "This version is dated 1 year prior to the copy your family submitted." He held up both documents side by side. "The original will leaves the majority of the estate, property, accounts, and business shares to Alice Everett." Gasps. Actual gasps this time. I felt every eye in the room burn into me. Me. The daughter they'd all tried to erase. "Impossible," my Uncle Jeff barked. "Tom wouldn't do that. We're his blood. She barely came around. That was a lie, and he knew it. I was there every summer," I said, voice calm but steady. "While you were too busy golfing in Spain." The lawyer looked between us, clearly uneasy. "I need to verify both documents, but if this one is legitimate, and based on the notary's seal and signature, it appears to be, it supersedes the amendment made 3 months ago." My father looked like he was about to erupt. "You forged it." I laughed bitterly. "Of course that's your first thought." I turned to the lawyer. "The original lawyer's name was Christopher DeWitt, right? Burlington, Vermont?" He nodded, surprised. "Yes. How did you?" He and Grandpa had been close friends for over a decade. Grandpa gave me this before he died and told me to use it if something felt wrong. And everything about this had felt wrong from the beginning. The funeral invitation, the family group chat I was excluded from, the sudden updated will. My sister, finally breaking her silence, stood up and shouted, "You don't even need the money, Alice. You have your tech job, your condo, your boring little life. Why can't you just let us have this?" I smiled. Not out of joy, but out of the absurdity. You mean the house you live in? That Grandpa paid for? The one he told me he'd be transferring into my name? My sister turned white. The lawyer looked down at the document again. There's an annex here listing all property transfers. He flipped a few pages. Indeed, the house at 1047 Pinebrook Lane is included, transferred to Alice Everett, effective upon Mr. Everett's passing. My mother stumbled back into her chair. You planned this, she whispered. I didn't respond, because the truth was, no, I didn't. Grandpa did. He saw through them long before I ever did. My uncle tried to snatch the papers from the lawyer's hands, but the man stood up. I'll be taking both wills to court for official review. No one touches these until a judge sees them. The room exploded into protest. But I just stood there. Not gloating, not smiling, just steady. Because I had one more bombshell they didn't know was coming, and it was inside Grandpa's safe. After the reading, chaos unfolded. My mother cried quietly. My sister paced, muttering to herself. My uncle shouted into his phone, probably calling a lawyer. I slipped out the back. No one noticed. They never did. The Everett estate had always been massive, but I knew it better than any of them, especially Grandpa's study. It still smelled like him, wood polish, pipe tobacco, and old paper. The mahogany safe was tucked behind a false panel in the bookshelf. He'd shown it to me when I was 16, taught me the combination, the birth dates of his grandchildren, mine first. I knelt down, heart pounding. Click, click, click. It opened. Inside were neatly organized folders, a velvet box, and a small flash drive. I took everything. I didn't know what I would need yet, but something told me I would need it all. Footsteps echoed behind me. I turned sharply, ready to lie. But it was the lawyer, Mr. Henley. Miss Everett, he said carefully, I believe we should talk. I stood and faced him, arms full. If you're going to ask if it's really mine to take, he raised his hand gently. No, I believe you. I just wanted to understand why your grandfather chose you. That made me pause, because I had wondered that too. Why me? Why not his sons, his daughters, the ones who'd inherited his name and bloodline? Then I remembered the night he told me. You listen, he had said. That's more than any of them ever did. I looked at Mr. Henley. He said I was the only one who never asked him for anything, just his stories. Mr. Henley nodded, almost smiling. I knew him 20 years. That sounds exactly like Thomas. We went back downstairs. By now, the rest of the family had retreated to the guest lounge. I could hear hushed shouting. I slipped the velvet box into my purse and held onto the flash drive. I opened my laptop at the dining table. Mr. Henley sat beside me, curious. I plugged it in. It contained one folder, Read If They Lie. Inside, a single video file. I clicked play. Grandpa's face filled the screen. He was seated in the very chair I sat in now. If you're watching this, then I've either passed away or your parents tried to change my will. My breath caught. Mr. Henley's jaw dropped. I'm leaving everything to Alice, Grandpa continued, voice clear, because she's the only one I trust not to burn it to the ground. The rest of you, he chuckled. Well, I know you. You'll try to twist this. You always do. Mr. Henley paused the video. This changes everything. I looked him in the eye. No, this proves everything. I didn't wait. I transferred the video to my phone and walked straight into the lounge. The moment they saw me, they went silent. My mother's eyes darted to the folders in my arms. What did you take? She snapped. I think the better question, I said calmly, is what you tried to hide. I connected my phone to the TV using the cable Grandpa kept on the mantel. My sister scoffed. What is this, some slideshow of your childhood summers? No, I replied. It's Grandpa, speaking for himself. I hit play. The room froze. On screen, Grandpa adjusted his cardigan and looked directly into the camera. If you're watching this, he repeated, then someone in this room tried to manipulate my final wishes. My mother stiffened. My uncle stopped chewing his ice. This will, my original will, was written with full clarity, witnessed, and notarized by Christopher DeWitt. Anything dated later was not created by me. I repeat, not created by me. Mr. Henley looked around the room. Every face was drained of color. Grandpa leaned closer on the screen. I've seen enough greed in my lifetime to know how far family will go when money's involved. His voice sharpened. And if you're thinking of contesting this, just know, every major account, trust, and asset has been protected by a clause. If Alice is challenged, the estate dissolves, and no one gets anything. I paused the video. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother stood. You expect us to believe that's real? Mr. Henley cleared his throat. I've reviewed the metadata. The video file was recorded 6 weeks before Mr. Everett's death. It matches voice authentication and image timestamps. It's real. My father sat back down, defeated. But my sister? She wasn't done. She lunged at me, trying to yank the phone from my hands. Mr. Henley stepped in between us. That's enough! You don't deserve this, she screamed. You're not even close to this family. Her words stung, but I didn't flinch. You're right, I said. I wasn't close, because the moment I started asking questions, you all pushed me out. My mother's face was unreadable, but my uncle leaned forward. Fine, so you win. You get the estate. He smiled bitterly. But you don't know half of what this family owns, and you don't have the legal team to handle any of it. I pulled out the last folder from Grandpa's safe. Actually, I said, laying it on the table. Grandpa already hired one for me. Inside was a letter of retainer from a law firm in Boston, one of the most prestigious on the East Coast. My name signed at the bottom, effective immediately. My uncle's smirk vanished. You think this is over? My sister whispered. I leaned closer. It hasn't even started. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at the estate, in the room Grandpa always kept for me. The same one with the old radio, the shelves of mystery novels, and the faded photo of us at the lake. I locked the door, sat on the bed, and opened the last folder. There, tucked beneath the law firm documents, was a handwritten letter, dated 2 months before his death. To my Alice, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and the leeches have come crawling. You always asked why I didn't confront them sooner, why I let them lie and take and spin stories around their egos. Truth is, I was tired, but not stupid. I saw everything, every phone call they ignored, every holiday they skipped, every time you showed up when they didn't. This house, this land, the business, it's all yours now. And you're going to face every bit of bitterness that comes with that. But you don't fold. You never did. Remember when you fixed the outboard motor on the lake boat with duct tape and an old shoelace? You said, if it floats, it works. That's how you'll survive them. Float above it. And work. Oh, and check the box in the closet. I left you one last tool. My hands shook as I read the signature. Thomas Everett. I opened the closet. Tucked in the corner, beneath old blankets and winter coats, was a metal lockbox. Inside was an audio recorder, and 2 flash drives, each labeled with a name. Linda. Mark. My mother. My uncle. I plugged one into my laptop. Grandpa's voice again, faint but clear. Mark, you're not getting a cent unless you come see me for more than 5 minutes without asking for a check. This is the 3rd time you've lied about the quarterly losses. I stared at the screen. This was evidence, proof of manipulation, of mismanagement, of greed. And there was more. Dozens of audio files, each labeled by date. Grandpa had documented everything. He had built a case. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I organized every file, printed transcripts, and contacted the Boston firm. By 9 a.m., I was on a Zoom call with 3 attorneys who already knew my name. Mr. Everett briefed us before he passed, the lead lawyer said. He expected this. We're ready when you are. I glanced toward the window where my family had started gathering again, pretending, plotting, waiting. "I'm ready," I said, because I wasn't just inheriting a fortune. I was inheriting a war. And Grandpa had already handed me the first strike. I called a family meeting. They arrived with smugness barely concealed. My mother wore pearls like armor. My uncle had that fake smile plastered on. My sister crossed her arms, already bored. They expected a breakdown. They got a briefing. I stood at the head of the dining table, laptop open, folders stacked beside me. Mr. Henley sat to my left. 2 attorneys from Boston joined via video call. "Why are we doing this again?" my uncle grunted. "Because you've all been operating under the assumption that the will can be contested," I said. "It can," my mother shot back. "You're not the only heir. Blood still counts." I smiled, slow and dangerous. "Funny, Grandpa didn't think so." I clicked play on the next recording. Grandpa's voice filled the room again. "Linda, if you touch that document again, I'll know. I already have the original copy stored off-site. You can write whatever you want, but it won't hold up." My mother's face drained of color. She lunged for the laptop. Mr. Henley stopped her with a single hand. "I told you," he said softly. "The original will is registered, time-stamped, notarized, unbreakable." I continued. "The estate is no longer in probate. The legal team will execute the distribution as Grandpa directed. Any further interference from any of you will trigger Clause 14. "What the hell is Clause 14? My sister spat. The Boston lawyer answered. "If Alice is challenged in any capacity, physically, legally, or financially, then the entire estate enters into charitable liquidation. In short," the second lawyer said, "you lose everything." My uncle laughed bitterly. "This is a bluff." I opened the next folder. Inside were printed copies of bank transfers, real estate deeds, and private trust arrangements, all already moved into my name. "This is not a bluff. You can yell," I said, "or you can leave. But you can't win." My father, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. "And what do you plan to do with all this?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Run it better than any of you ever did." He shook his head. "You don't have the spine." I leaned in. "I have Grandpa's voice, his records, his lawyers, his strategy." I paused. "And unlike you, I don't need this money to survive." That one landed. Because it was true. I had built a career. Quietly. Independently. And they hadn't noticed. I walked to the fireplace and pulled out a final envelope. Inside was a family photo from 20 years ago. Grandpa, me, and no one else. On the back he'd scribbled, "In the end, the ones who show up are the ones who stay." I turned to the room. "You can stay and accept this, or walk away and lose everything." They didn't move, so I did, because I already had what I needed. And they knew it. 3 days later, I got a call from the law firm. They had discovered something I wasn't expecting. "Miss Everett," the lead attorney said, "we traced some unusual digital activity related to the contested will." I leaned forward. "What kind of activity?" He hesitated. "Email correspondence between your mother, your uncle, and a third party. An estate lawyer not affiliated with us or your grandfather." They sent me the files. And when I opened them, my hands trembled with fury. Subject, rewriting Everett will, urgent. From Linda Everett. To Martin West, Esquire. Will need it to look natural. Keep the original assets, but switch the beneficiary to Mark. Alice doesn't need any of this. She barely visits. Another. My father is old and stubborn. He'll never notice. Just make sure the signatures match. And worse, we'll pay extra if you backdate it. We just need it to pass the first reading. They tried to forge Grandpa's will, and they used a lawyer already under suspension. I forwarded everything to Mr. Henley and the Boston team. "That's attempted fraud," Henley muttered, skimming the pages. "More than that," the Boston lawyer added. "It's conspiracy and falsification of legal documents. You have enough to press criminal charges." I took a breath. Did I want that? Yes. But not yet. Not until they saw it coming. I printed every email and transcript, sealed them into a folder, and walked into the kitchen where my family had gathered, pretending again. My mother was bragging to a guest about hosting charity luncheons at the estate. My sister was laughing like nothing happened. My uncle was already pouring wine. I set the folder down in the center of the table. They stared at it like it might explode. "What now?" my sister groaned. I opened it slowly, turned the pages toward them, one by one. Their faces changed in real time. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My uncle cursed under his breath. "You hacked us?" my mother accused. "No," I said. "You just weren't careful, and Grandpa was." I pulled out a final printed page, a formal statement from the law firm. Charges pending: forgery, falsification of legal documents, conspiracy to commit fraud. My uncle stood so fast his chair screeched backward. "You'd ruin your own family for this?" I stood, matching his rage. "You tried to erase me from Grandpa's legacy. You tried to steal what he wanted me to have. This isn't revenge. It's justice." My sister reached for the folder. I pulled it back. "Copies are with the firm and the state. Try to destroy this, and you'll only make it worse." My mother finally spoke. Tears welled up, but they felt too rehearsed. "This will break us." I stared at her. "You already did." And I walked away. Because the law was on my side now, and they couldn't spin their way out of this one. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. The moment the law firm notified them of impending charges, the panic started. My uncle tried to call me 6 times. I didn't answer. My sister sent a string of voice notes saying, "We were just trying to protect the family." Protect it from what? Me? My mother finally showed up at the estate unannounced. Hair perfect, voice trembling, and holding a plate of my favorite cookies like this was 2005, and I was still 12. "Alice," she said, standing at the doorway. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside, silent. She walked in slowly, as if the house might reject her. She sat in the very chair Grandpa always used. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I made mistakes," she started. "Not just now. A long time ago." I folded my arms. She reached into her purse and pulled out a tiny locket. Grandpa's. The one he always wore, but hadn't been found after the funeral. "I took this," she said softly. I thought I deserved something." I stayed quiet. She looked up at me with wet eyes. "I know I failed him. And I know I failed you." I waited. Because crocodile tears didn't wash away felony charges. She stood, her voice shaking. "I'll cooperate with the investigation. I'll return everything. Just drop the charges." I tilted my head. "Why now?" "Because I finally see what he saw in you. You were always the one who showed up." I took the locket from her hand. It was warm, heavy, familiar. Then I said something I never thought I would. "I won't press charges." She gasped. But I wasn't done. "If you and Mark sign legal affidavits admitting everything, and transfer every claim you attempted to forge back to the trust, and you disappear, quietly. No lawsuits, no interviews, no drama." She nodded so fast I almost believed her, but I didn't trust her. Which is why I had already recorded the entire conversation and had 2 attorneys listening from the other room. By nightfall, both my mother and uncle had signed. Everything was restored to its rightful state. The estate was safe, the company was mine. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about cleaning up the wreckage of a family built on silence, manipulation, and secrets. My sister didn't sign. She didn't speak. She just left. No goodbye, no apology. Just silence. And for once, I was okay with that. Because some people don't deserve closure. They just deserve to be gone. A week passed. The dust began to settle. The estate was in my name. The investigation was closed. Charges dropped under strict agreements. The family scattered like leaves in wind. But one morning, Mr. Henley showed up at my office. He held a small wooden box with a brass latch. "This was left with your grandfather's personal safety deposit box," he said. "He requested it be given to you once everything was settled." I opened it slowly, half expecting another legal twist. Instead, inside was a single handwritten letter, on heavy cream paper, in Grandpa's familiar cursive. To my Alice, if you're reading this, it means you've seen the worst of them, and the best of yourself. I knew the fight would come. I tried to shield you, but I also knew you were stronger than even you believed. I watched you grow into someone with grit, with fire, with decency in a house that rewarded lies. I'm sorry I didn't say this sooner. I am proud of you. They may hate you now, but that's because you saw through the fog they built. This estate, it's not a reward. It's a responsibility. Use it to build, not to bury. And when they come back, because they will, don't forget, forgiveness is strength, not surrender. But you decide who earns it. Love, always. Grandpa. I sat there, reading the words again and again, not because I needed proof he loved me, but because this letter, this moment, was the real inheritance. Not land, not shares, not power, but clarity. I walked out to the garden, where Grandpa used to sit every Sunday with his tea and radio. I sat in his old chair, letter in hand. And for the first time since he passed, I felt peace. Not victory, not triumph, just peace. Because I didn't win against them. I won for myself. For the version of me that had been ignored, pushed aside, underestimated. The quiet girl who kept her head down while everyone else played puppet master. That girl had grown up, and now she was in charge. Of the company, of the land, of the legacy, and of her own voice. That night, I hosted dinner, not for the family I was born into, but for the one I'd chosen, my friends, mentors, former colleagues, people who stood by me when no one else did. And in Grandpa's seat, a framed photo of him, smiling, because he may have left this world, but he left me the tools to build something better. And I finally intended to. 6 months later, everything had changed. The estate was thriving under new management, mine. I turned the old guest house into a nonprofit incubator space. Young entrepreneurs, artists, and students now walked through halls that once only echoed with secrets. Grandpa's study turned into a reading room and mentorship hub, his name carved on the door in gold leaf. Every choice I made felt like a thread, reconnecting what they tried to cut. And then, one quiet morning, a letter came in the mail. No return address, just a shaky handwritten line. From her. I opened it carefully. Inside were only 2 things: a folded note and a check. The note read, "I was wrong. About you. About him. About everything. I don't want forgiveness. I just want to disappear, knowing you're okay. Use this for something good. Something he would have liked." It was signed, simply, Mom? The check? $500,000. Half the amount they tried to steal. Blood money. But I didn't tear it up. I didn't cash it either. Instead, I handed it to our nonprofit director. "Use it for scholarships," I said, "and name the program after the woman who didn't believe in me. Because we all deserve a second chance, even if it's symbolic." Word got around fast. And within weeks, we had full funding. Applications poured in. People started showing up. Young women. Quiet ones. Ones who reminded me of me. Not loud, not flashy, but sharp. Determined. Hungry for a shot no one was giving them. And that's when I knew. This was the real revenge. Not lawsuits, not public humiliation, but success. Quiet, steady, undeniable. The kind they'd hear about but never be invited to. The kind they'd scroll past and realize too late they could have been part of it. My uncle tried to slither back in once. Sent a long, groveling email pretending like the past was just a rough patch. I didn't even respond. I just forwarded it to the spam folder labeled History, My sister? She left the country, moved to Europe with someone twice her age and half her brain. And that was fine. Some people don't need a villain arc. They're just background noise. But me? Eid. I wasn't just the girl they forgot in the will. I was the one who rewrote the story, who kept receipts, who made legacy mean more than money. And on the 1-year anniversary of Grandpa's passing, I held a remembrance at the estate. Small, private, no press, just people who mattered. I stood under the big oak tree where Grandpa used to sit and carved 3 words into the bark. I remembered everything. Not out of spite, but out of gratitude. Because sometimes, being forgotten is the best thing they can do for you. It gives you room to become unforgettable. What do you think about Alice's decision? Was she too harsh? Or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about family.